Before I start, I want to reiterate what my colleague said. Thank you to the Korean Labor Institute for setting up such an interesting conference program and, of course, for inviting me here. It's my first time in Korea and I feel very honored to be part of this. My name is Hajo Holst. I'm a professor of sociology at the University of Osnabrück. It's, I would say, an SME university, small and medium university in the north, not far from the Netherlands. I'm specialized in research on work organization in the car industry. For 15 years, I've been doing research on the changes of work organization, the introduction of digital technologies, and the implementation, adoption of lean production in the German car industry. Today, I'm going to present findings from a study I conducted with Professor Lim for the Korean Labor Institute, and which I saw has been published in Korean as well. So I want to talk about current trends of workplace innovation in Germany. One might ask, why the car industry? As we've heard intriguing examples of the healthcare sector right now, and I think there's a lot of overlaps to my colleague from the Netherlands. I'll talk a lot about teamwork as well. So the car industry is an important economic and employment sector in Germany. That's a well-known fact. There's different estimates on how big the share of employment in the car industry is. I think roughly 5% directly employed or indirectly independent is a good estimate. And even more important, the industry has been from the 80s and 90s on a forerunner in workplace innovation in Germany. So I think what we've talked about workplace innovation in the wider meaning of a work system which fosters both economic efficiency and job quality. If you look in Germany at academic jobs or highly skilled workers, that's more widespread. What's special about the car industry is that we have implemented workplace innovation as well for manual labor in rather repetitive, simple work environments of mass production. So that is an important element, and there the car industry is a forerunner. And why the dual transformation? So the parallel transformation, the decarbonization of the car industry, the car and the car industry, and the digitization, they together form a period of radical uncertainty in the German car industry, not just in Germany, but particularly in Germany. I will say later why particularly in Germany. So it seems to be open right now what cars are produced in the future. The European way seems to be electric vehicles, but that's not by any means decided. It's open where these cars are produced. I mean, will the electric vehicles come mostly from China? They're good at that, and it's cheaper than the German cars. Or will German car makers be successful in the transition and produce electrical vehicles in the future? And I mention these questions because they're important for the future prospects of workplace innovation in these companies. So, I mean, if the cars are produced somewhere else, then we don't need to talk about workplace innovation in the car industry anymore. So the story I want to tell is one of continuity at the current moment of workplace innovation in the group of car makers and large suppliers like Bosch, ZF. Those are the companies who have capital to transform into the production of electromobility. Those are the companies which have commitment to their workforces, and those are the companies who have commitment to their work organization, which has a high level of workplace innovation. If we look at supplier levels, the further we go down in the value chains, the higher the risks are and the less workplace innovation is proliferating. So there's a polarization of workplace innovation in Germany happening right now in the car industry. These are the 5 points I want to talk about. I have an eye on the clock, as I noticed that it's not easy to stay into 25 minutes. I will give a very brief introduction into workplace innovation in the German car industry from the 1890s with a focus on semi-autonomous teamwork. I will briefly talk about the specific challenges for German car makers stemming from the greening and parallel digitization of the industry. I will then present a case study. It's one case from a German automaker, a small plant, highly dependent so far on the fossil combustion engine, and they try to transform and get independent from the fossil or carbon-based mobility. And we can see very well how the traditional path of qualification and sticking to workplace innovation works for them. But we see as well the side effects to the suppliers and the tensions which might grow in the near future in terms of workplace innovation in this industry. In Germany, to start with a brief introduction, the car industry in Germany is a stronghold of co-determination, so the German law allows workers to elect a representative who has far-reaching negotiation rights with management. So in Germany, these company-based workers' representatives, they have an influence on work organization, on technology use, on workplace innovation, and that is special as well in comparison to many other European countries, that the works councils have a deep-reaching impact on work organization as well. It's one of the driving forces of the institutionalization of workplace innovation in these industries. And in the large car manufacturers and the large suppliers like Bosch and ZF, all of these are multinational companies by now. Cooperative relations between management and this worker representative have established in the post-war period up to today, and they are an important condition, success condition for the companies and of course for the workplace innovation as well. So if we look into the 90s, I mean, the lean waves came to Germany as well. There was the attempts to build a more participatory version of lean production, so the combination of the Toyota production systems, and we learned a lot this morning by Professor June on the key elements of the Toyota production systems, but to combine it with like semi-autonomous teamwork, so to make this system somehow more participatory. And if I can refer to the presentation of Professor June, one key element was this work of the on-site technicians, which are non-lean, but they need to support it. And the idea in the semi-autonomous work is to get these tasks into the group, to distribute them. So you have higher qualified workers. You know, they can all, like an average group has like about 8, 9, 10 stations. Every worker should be able to do all those workstations. You have job enlargements to this in principle, very monotonous, standardized environments. Through the implementation of these tasks of maintenance, quality control, and minor planning tasks, you have a job enrichment. And of course, one of the goals is to have workers participate in innovation on the shop floor. I said this in the beginning, this is very normal for skilled labor in manufacturing companies where you have single model construction of big machines, but very specific for the car industry in this very monotonous, standardized work environments. So as a consequence, the positive sides, and this resonates very well with Peter Owe's comments earlier, you have motivated workers, like turnover is very low. You have committed workers to the firms, they're loyal. Even in times of crisis, they stay with the firms. You have innovative workers who participate in improving processes and products. And one important thing is you have very flexible workers. They're qualified to do more stations, so they can be put in other areas as well, particularly, well, in the pandemic and the financial crisis, you could see how fast these companies could move their employees around in other areas. But one thing has to be said as well, it's not cheap. If you have a pure low-cost strategy, these workers cost more. And then it's of course not, so you have to run a company market strategy which is not focused just on cost reduction. Short dual transformation. We all know like carbon-based mobility is a big problem in climate change for the global perspective, and has been actually rather fueled by the current trend of what cars are sold, right? It's more the SUVs, the big cars who have more carbon emissions, although they get more efficient. And I've said in the beginning, the German industry is particularly vulnerable because the carbon or the fossil powertrain was their edge in competition. German companies were proud of the engineering of the combustion engine, and that's what they used to market themselves, to sell cars at a higher price. And of course now this engine it's not history yet, but the decisions of the companies are going in a way that they will focus on electric vehicles. So we have a highly skilled squad of engineers, mechanical engineers, which have like no jobs in the future because they cannot be quickly retrained for other tasks in the company. It's much easier to retrain a production worker to assemble an electric vehicle. You need some special skills for the high voltage, but that's about it. But the engineers are the big problem. So with the e-mobility, there's not only new products, there come new supply chains, and of course the need for new qualifications. And the discontinuous digitization comes parallel to it. The pandemic has proven to be a digitization surge push. Companies have introduced much more digitization, IoT technologies in the production line. And the discussions we've heard before about human supportive digitization or more control-oriented digitization are very vibrant right now in German car companies as well. And I would say it's open. We have a case study here where more a human-oriented, human-supporting system was established. But I would not bet on that in 5 years that is still the same. Technology is fast changing. And in management, there's intensive discussions on this as well. So the case study, which is published in more detail in the report for the Korean Labor Institute, stems from a smaller plant of one of the 3 big German car producers. The plant has about 6,000 employees and has been transformed over the years into an internal supplier, producing all the pieces you need for the powertrain, particularly gearboxes and axles. So the plant management has a vision of, with electric mobility taking off, their products going down. So they're very keen on acquiring new products which are based on electromobility and less sensitive on the carbon plant. Here's one of the products or one of the projects they initiated. So they have in principle, a tradition of ternary, skilled mechanical labor. And what they did is to outsource a successful gearbox to a supplier. I mean, gearboxes you don't need in this dimension for electric cars anymore. And introduce bodywork, which was unthinkable for this plant because bodywork is like highly automated. You don't need the particular skills of like ternary. But it's independent from electric mobility. I mean, whatever engine is in the car, you can use the bodywork. So there was a big change. It involved 400 people. It's a change in the production system. It's a change in the qualification because people had to be trained with the new highly digitalized machines. So they qualified 400 workers for this new environment. And this is very typical for the German car makers. They invest this money in doing the transformation with their workforce, and they implemented their traditional system of teamwork, like with group representatives and a high level of participation of the workers. So the participatory lean production is as well in place in this new area. So for for this plant, and the Works Council, who has played a major role in this transformation. This project is highly successful because like 400 workplaces were made independent from carbon mobility. They were equipped with new digital technology, and it's a human-centered digital technology. They have IoT to detect mistakes, to do predictive maintenance, but not to control workers' behavior and performance. That's an important element. So the IoT generates data which workers use to improve products and processes, but not to control the workers. But of course, it has a side effect. I mean, it's a success story for the car maker, but the gearbox, that goes to a supplier and has to be produced, because for the coming years, they still produce the fossil cars, or the internal combustion engine. So we see, if you look at the bigger picture, we see commitment among the car makers, as the big suppliers as well. They do the transformation with their own workforces, which is challenging to qualify them, to reposition them, because it's important. You have to produce the old products until the end. The last fossil car runs from the assembly line has still to be 100% quality, but at the same time, you need qualified workers for the new products. They have enough capital to invest in this technological transformation, and they are able to manage this complex restaffing process, like to transform, to qualify them, and to put them into the new production areas. But among the suppliers, the transformation becomes a do-or-die question. You're either in electric mobility or you're out of the business. That is the perception, the vision of the suppliers, the management in the German car industry right now, and that reinforces problems which have been there before. So the lack of capital. These companies, if you look at the second and third tier suppliers, they do not have the capital to invest in the new technologies, to build up the knowledge needed, to build up the new production lines. It looks right now that the production lines in e-mobility products are more automated than the combustion engine due to reduced product variety, because product variety comes more from software apps than from the products, the hardware side. So you need more capital for this production lines. You have a highly intensified competition. There's more companies producing these e-mobility products, the e-engine. There's a lot of Chinese companies who produce high quality engines. And so these companies now on top have a product portfolio highly invested on carbon mobility. And they do not get out of this trap at this point. And for workplace innovation in these companies, it's a really hard business. Legally, there exist works councils as well, but to implement teamwork with some elements of autonomy is really hard in this, and it's in principle almost impossible. So in general, we see in the German car industry, once a stronghold of workplace innovation as well in the suppliers, we see a polarization of the opportunities for workplace innovation. So we see continuity and striving, vibrant initiatives on workplace innovation in the dual transformation on the level of OEMs and large suppliers, but we see as well more difficulties in the suppliers to keep this tradition going and to take the benefits in an environment where management sees only 10, 15 years for these plants, and there's no longer future because they do not manage to get on the new industry. And this is why the dual transformation, although it's not the core topic of the conference, it's workplace innovation, but it has a huge impact on the possibilities and prospects of workplace innovation in this industry, which has been a core for workplace innovation in Germany. And I see there's still 5 minutes, but actually I'm through with this. Thank you for your attention. I put this into the discussion.